this past winter. And what that means is that Europe needs to, according to our calculations, needs to import roughly 140 billion cubic meters this year. So that represents roughly a 30% increase versus last year. And since we lost Russian gas flows via Ukraine, so that's 15 VCM that we lost there. And since we don't have any other alternatives, because domestic output is declining or is in structural decline, that means that we will need to pull LNG very hard. And the main commercial partner there is the US. And I would say before the trade, I guess the trade war started, I think the outlook for natural gas in Europe wasn't that negative. We thought prices between 45 and 50 euros per megawatt hour were possible because the industrial outlook in Europe wasn't looking too bad relative to the previous years. And after the tariffs, of course, we've seen this story change. And I think it's important to note that one of the main drivers there was Chinese demand. So China has consumed much less LNG this year, roughly 20% less year to date versus last year. So that is considerable. And that is before considering the tariff impact. So according to my calculations that I just looked at the numbers now, roughly it's been 70 days that China hasn't imported LNG from the US. And though that's not a big chunk, like if you put it into context, China only imported around 9 BCM of US LNG in 2024. So it's not a big, let's say, it's not a big chunk of the imports that we need, but it will definitely ease the balance. So if you think about the two, I guess, drivers, is that we do have a larger restocking gap this year. But we think, if anything, Europe may actually miss its storage target of 90%. Even though the LNG pool is wide and all that, there's really the seasonal spreads in prices are very thin, which means that operators are not incentivized to restock inventories at the moment. So that means that perhaps we will miss our target and just reach around 83% full by the end of November versus the 90% target. That doesn't mean that we're in crisis, but if anything, it tells you how much uncertainty there is out there about where those trade flows for LNG especially will end up going.
Yeah, I always have to check the numbers on European gas to make sure I'm doing the conversion right.